Good morning. We have a very vocal bird behind us this morning. I was doing some reading this morning about a study that found that while we all love when our team, whether it be our high school team or somebody we're cheering for in the Olympics or our football team or a professional team, doesn't matter what level of sports it is, we're all excited and happy when our team wins. But there are often some fairly negative consequences when our team experiences the agony of defeat, so to speak. They found that Peanut, my cat, decided it was going to be friendly with the with the stand, with the camera stand. Anyhow, when our team loses, they found that, like, for instance, in international sports, if you're on the side of the losing team, the team that you lost to, people tend to, let's say Germany is playing England. They found out, and let's say Germany loses, then they found out that the people in Germany tend to have a more negative response towards the people in England. They don't, they tend to dislike them more because they beat their sports team. Or if Cleveland is playing Pittsburgh and Pittsburgh wins, and then Cleveland feels sort of negative towards, feels sort of negative towards the people of Pittsburgh. Or even in high school sports, if one high school team beats another high school team, then sometimes the people of, let's say, Moorfield beats Petersburg, then sometimes the people of Petersburg feels a grudge towards the people of Moorfield, or vice versa. It can have all sorts of negative connotations. We feel bad, we feel angry at the people that beat us. And they also found that when our sports teams lose, that we tend to the consumption of things like saturated fats and sweets and that kind of stuff. People turn to comfort food, pizza and all sorts of things. People turn to comfort food and begin to eat a lot of comfort food just to kind of ease their wounded soul from from their team losing. Paul had a different way of doing it. In Galatians chapter 2, verse 19, he says, I have been crucified with Christ. I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I which live, but Christ lives in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, and here's the key, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. I do not set aside the grace of God, for if righteousness comes through the law, then Christ died in vain. But the key thing, he says, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. He said, regardless of what happens in my life, and there were plenty of bad things that happened in Paul's life, but he said, regardless of what happens in my life, regardless of how bad circumstances might get, regardless of how difficult life might get in any given situation, he says, I'm not going to worry about that because I live by faith in the Son of God. I live because of my relationship with Jesus Christ, and because of that, I can rejoice. If you look at Philippians chapter 4, verse 4, he starts out saying, rejoice in all things. Paul had this amazing attitude where he was able to find joy, where he was able to rejoice in every situation. And he was able to do that not because his team won or lost, not because things were going well for him or things were going not so well for him. He didn't rejoice because of circumstances. He rejoiced because of the fact that he was living his life in a relationship with Jesus Christ, and that meant more to him than any circumstance in this world. No circumstance in this world could change the fact that he was able to rejoice because he lived by faith in the Son of God, Jesus Christ. I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I which live, but Christ lives in me. So because of that, He's saying external circumstances, they don't matter. They don't matter. The stresses that happen in life, they don't matter. Because he says, I have this amazing relationship with Jesus Christ. Today, I don't know what you're faced with. I don't know what struggles or stresses or difficulties or pressures that you may deal with. I've dealt with plenty over the last week. But the bottom line is, regardless of how difficult things might become at times, none of that's going to take away my relationship with Jesus Christ. I live by faith in the Son of God. Do you know Jesus is your Savior? I hope you do. And if you do, you have reason to rejoice even if your team lost. Well, if we ever start seeing sports again, if coronavirus ever starts letting us have teams win or lose again, anyhow, don't let your circumstances dictate your attitude. Rejoice in the fact that you're a child of God. And I hope you have a great day today. God bless you.